The movie begins with an eerie silence broken only by nature's presence, misty forests, empty cabins, and the weight of a reunion long overdue. Miriam arrives with her husband Caleb at her sister Greta's secluded woodland home, nestled far from the bustle of the world. Though the family greets each other warmly on the surface, tension quietly coils beneath every gesture. Caleb and Miriam have clearly been drifting apart. Their exchanges are stiff and awkward. Greta, on the other hand, seems to be thriving. She and her partner Dylan host the couple for a weekend retreat in the countryside. The environment is picturesque, yet the quiet dread seeping through the atmosphere hints that something is off. Miriam looks disconnected even among loved ones. Her eyes often drift to the shadows between the trees or linger too long on Dylan. As the group catches up, there are strained attempts at normalcy. Drinks are poured, past stories are revived, and laughs are exchanged. But even the laughter feels rehearsed. Caleb is disengaged. Greta is maternal and guarded, and Dylan, charming and confident, tries to lighten the mood with his playful banter. One night, seated around the fire, they talk about their relationships. Dylan casually jokes about monogamy and open marriages. He speaks candidly, flirtatiously even, and Miriam responds with an uneasy smile. Greta watches with a passive expression, not quite intervening. In a moment alone with Dylan, Miriam opens up about her strained marriage. She tells him Caleb is cold, indifferent. Dylan listens, validating her frustrations with kind words and warm eyes. Miriam is vulnerable. She trusts him. But what seems like an emotional connection begins to skew in unsettling directions. Later, during a camping trip by the lake, the group splinters. Miriam, feeling isolated, stays behind at the tent while the others go for a swim. Dylan eventually returns. He finds Miriam alone. The scene unfolds in a disorienting blur of visuals, flashes of trees, sudden camera shifts, and Miriam's face filled with shock and disbelief. Dylan assaults her. The film doesn't show it in traditional narrative terms. It breaks time, fractures reality. One moment Miriam is awake, the next she's curled in fetal position, whispering no to no one. Her trauma becomes non-linear. Events loop, rewind, reappear in new angles. She relives the event again and again. When she finally tries to tell Greta what happened, the reaction is devastating. Greta is dismissive, even accusatory. She questions Miriam's version of events, suggesting maybe it was a misunderstanding or something she misread. Greta's loyalty to Dylan is immovable. The bond between sisters fractures completely. Cut to a later timeline. Miriam, now alone, has grown colder, more methodical. She contacts Dylan, pretends to want to reconnect. They meet by the lake where it all happened. She plays friendly, laughs at his jokes, and lures him into a false sense of safety. As night falls, she drugs his drink and drags his unconscious body into the woods. The next scenes are harrowing and unflinching. Miriam ties him up, naked and helpless. When Dylan awakens, disoriented and confused, she confronts him. She forces him to admit what he did, all while keeping a detached, cold demeanor. Dylan tries to gaslight her again. He calls her crazy, insists he thought it was mutual, and even plays the victim. She doesn't flinch. With a slow and calculated fury, Miriam enacts her revenge. The camera doesn't flinch either. The film's raw depiction of violence is not for spectacle. It's uncomfortable, methodical, and brutal, just like her pain. She cuts his throat and drains the blood into a bucket. It's horrifying but not chaotic. It's surgical. She's done this in her mind 1,000 times. As Dylan dies, the film flashes to past moments. His laugh at the campfire, his smirk as he teased her, Greta brushing her concerns aside. Miriam's face remains emotionless. She burns the body and buries what's left. Then, with gruesome efficiency, she returns to Greta's home and continues the charade. Greta still thinks Dylan is just away for a few days, but Miriam knows the truth, and now she lives with it quietly. Later, in a chilling scene, Miriam is seen boiling Dylan's bones, cleaning them in the same kitchen where they once shared drinks and conversation. The visual contrast is sickening. The film lingers on her expression, not victorious, not relieved, but hollow. There is no catharsis. As the movie loops back to earlier conversations and memories, the timeline continues to fragment. Scenes that once seemed innocent now feel sinister. The viewer is left to question everything. What was real? What was imagined? And how much of Miriam's mind has been lost to the trauma? By the end, Miriam walks alone in the same woods she first arrived in. The camera pans out. There are no tears, no closure, just silence, and that silence is louder than any scream. As we dive further into the nonlinear storytelling of violation, the film pulls us into the fractured state of Miriam's mind. Memories come out of order. We're taken back to the night of the assault, this time with more clarity. It wasn't spontaneous. Dylan entered the tent, laughing quietly. He offered Miriam a drink. She confided in him about her emotional pain, about feeling invisible in her marriage. He leaned in too close, told her she was special, said he always liked her. And then when she was emotionally exposed, he made his move. At first she froze, then she whispered, "Stop." He didn't. The camera doesn't dramatize the violence. It focuses on her face, stiff, confused, filled with horror and disbelief. Dylan continues, as if nothing is wrong, as if this is something they both wanted. The morning after, Dylan acts as if nothing happened. He casually eats breakfast with the others. Miriam, silent and distant, watches him. She's disoriented, trying to process what just happened, but the world around her refuses to acknowledge her pain. Caleb is oblivious. Greta is cheerful. And Dylan, he's laughing. Miriam finally tells Greta what happened. But instead of support, Greta responds with fury. "You're always like this," she says. "You ruin everything." Greta accuses her of jealousy, of trying to destroy her family. Miriam is stunned. Her sister, her only family, chooses Dylan over her. The betrayal runs deep. The timeline shifts again. Miriam is sitting in a bathtub, staring at the ceiling. She's trying to hold herself together, but the cracks are visible. The editing flickers between past and present. One moment she's in the water, the next she's outside digging a hole. Her thoughts no longer move linearly, just like the film. Then we see a critical moment. Miriam alone in the woods, rehearsing her confrontation with Dylan. She whispers the words she wants him to say. "I'm sorry. It wasn't your fault." But when she finally meets him again, the words don't come from him. Instead, he denies everything. This scene marks the shift from emotional chaos to cold strategy. She's done pleading. The moral ambiguity of the film deepens here. Miriam's revenge is not framed as triumphant, it's horrific. But so is the silence. So is being ignored. So is being told to forget. In one of the most harrowing scenes, Miriam meticulously prepares for the killing. She places plastic sheets down, dons gloves. She's not acting out of rage, she's acting out of necessity, in her mind. This isn't about bloodlust, it's about justice. Justice no one else would give her. She poisons Dylan slowly. As he lies dazed and disoriented, she speaks calmly. She doesn't shout. She doesn't cry. "Do you remember that night?" she asks. Dylan tries to deflect, to downplay, to reshape the story into something mutual. She reminds him. She said no. The act of violence that follows is agonizingly slow. Miriam kills him not with theatrical brutality, but with chilling control. The film does not celebrate this moment. It forces the viewer to sit in it, to feel the discomfort of revenge that brings no relief. After disposing of the body, Miriam scrubs the blood from her skin. She wears a calm mask in front of others, but internally she is unraveling. We see more flashbacks, this time of Miriam and Greta as children. They used to be close. Greta once protected Miriam from bullies. They used to laugh together. The betrayal now stings even more. Greta's loyalty to Dylan becomes the deepest cut of all. In a heartbreaking scene, Miriam looks through old photos. She's not smiling in any of them. Caleb in the background always distant. Greta always in Dylan's arms. Miriam never quite belonged. Now she's invisible for good, but this time by choice. There's a surreal quality to these middle scenes. The forest becomes a recurring symbol. Every time Miriam walks among the trees, it feels like she's drifting further from reality. The natural world does not judge her, it merely watches. Silent, neutral, permanent. Greta begins to suspect something is wrong when Dylan doesn't return. Miriam lies, says he left after a fight. Greta grows anxious, suspicious, but she still doesn't blame Miriam. Instead, she blames Dylan for leaving without saying anything. But Miriam knows that Greta won't ever know the truth. Not really. One particularly symbolic moment comes when Miriam sits on a riverbank, watching the water flow. She drops a ring into the current, a wedding ring. The river takes it without pause. Miriam doesn't cry. She just watches it disappear, like so many things in her life. The movie continues weaving between timelines, each time revealing new layers. We see her attempts to reconnect with Caleb, who remains emotionally absent. He blames her for her outbursts. He tells her she's too intense. The victim becomes the problem again. Eventually Caleb leaves her, and Miriam doesn't stop him. There's nothing left to salvage. Back in the present, Greta confronts her about Dylan's disappearance. Miriam listens silently. She doesn't admit or deny anything. Her face is unreadable. Greta begins to cry, real tears of confusion and grief. But Miriam doesn't comfort her. There's no comfort left to give. In the film's final act, Miriam becomes almost ghost-like. She drifts through each day in a fog, maintaining a carefully composed mask while carrying the weight of all she's done and all she's lost. The forest, once lush and oppressive, now feels quiet and dead. Miriam spends more time there than anywhere else, wandering alone beneath the trees. Her body moves with purpose, but her eyes are empty. The vengeance is complete, yet there is no sense of triumph, no relief. If anything, she looks more haunted than before. Back at the cabin, Greta continues searching for signs of Dylan. Days pass, she files a missing person report. Locals ask questions. Miriam remains calm, too calm. When Greta questions her again, Miriam feigns confusion. "I thought you said he took off." Greta starts to unravel, sensing something terrible has happened, but unable or unwilling to believe her own sister could be responsible. Miriam doesn't deny it. she just doesn't confirm it either. Instead, she watches her sister unravel with the same hollow detachment she had when Dylan died. It's not that she doesn't feel, it's that she's exhausted every avenue of pain. More flashbacks seep in. One takes us back to that night by the fire, long before the assault. The group is drinking, laughing. Dylan sits close to Miriam, brushing her shoulder, whispering in her ear. Greta watches but says nothing. This time the viewer understands what Miriam only later realized. The seeds were being planted even then. The next flashback shows Miriam confiding in Greta, years ago, about a different assault. It's brief but telling. Greta had dismissed her then too. "You overreact," she had said. This context changes everything. Miriam has been silenced her whole life. And when she finally screamed, no one listened, so she acted. In one of the film's most disturbing and symbolic moments, Miriam returns to the site where she killed Dylan. She digs up the remains, what little is left, and begins the process of boiling the bones in silence. The visual is deeply unsettling. Flesh peels away. Bones are scrubbed clean. It's not about destruction anymore. It's about control. About erasing the physical evidence of his existence, piece by piece.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.